Hey, we're live right now.
We live right now?
It's the JAXXON podcast.
Is this live?
This is live.
Okay.
This is our most requested guest of all time. Listen, I'm Pereira. You guys are watching the JAXXON podcast. I'm sitting here with the greatest co-host of all time. It's actually, I'm the co-host. This is the host.
No, you the co-host. You are the host.
No, you the host.
You the host.
No, you the host, brother.
The one that
hostess with the mostest.
The one that does the announcements in the beginning. That's the host.
You know, hostess like the ding dongs.
Yes.
Yeah, he the hostess with the mostest. What's wrong?
It's too early in the morning.
Hard on the outside, but very soft and nice on the inside. Great guy right here. Great guy. Yes, great guy. Love you, brother. Saw him doing some amazing stuff in Texas, running around with this guy Fuzi. They were running around the whole country, and then they were looking for people, and then he had to fight 3 dudes from Korea, and he had to fight them.
Oh, you saw that?
Oh, it was the most insane thing of all time. Rampage housed 3 guys in the woods, okay?
Really?
Yeah, he went to the Cracker Barrel. Then when he left Cracker Barrel, he got the harmonica, he got a bunch of snacks, and he ran to the woods.
Don't believe that part.
No?
So I was, these people, they be doing live streaming. You know about that stuff on Kick and Twitch? And
yeah, okay.
Like it started out, they streaming video games, so now it's called IRL. So they put on this contest where they can win $100,000.
Okay.
It's like battle royale, like Call of Duty. Whoever the last man standing, they can shoot each other with paintball.
Call of Duty, yeah.
Yeah, and these 3 Korean guys wanted to jump me. They wanted to wrestle. I was like, I'm not wrestling 3 people. That's dangerous for me. I'm not wrestling 3 people.
At the same time?
At the same time. I said, no, I'm throwing punches. They were like, no, we wrestle. I said, no. I said, you guys attack me, I'm going to punch. And so they was making fun of me. So I lined them all up like side by side, and I smacked all 3 up. And they got mad. They tried to jump me. So I gave them some baby taps.
And oh man.
And then he started punching him. Hey, we got the most requested guest of all time. MMA legend, a jiu-jitsu legend, a UFC legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Demian Maia, all the way from Brazil for the JAXXON podcast. I can't tell you how honored and how thankful I am. And huge shout out to Leo Vera and Buchecha for helping make this happen.
Yeah, that was nice because I was in Vegas Saturday night or Sunday night for the ADCC, and we are having a dinner. And then Buchecha said, look, he's my friend, Bear. He wants you to go to the podcast. I said, man, I can't. I have so many things in Brazil. No, he wants you to do. And he started to talk, and we start to talk about, and then finally convinced me, okay, I changed your tickets, everything. So, I came.
Wow. I didn't stop bugging him. I felt so bad.
Wow,
thank you for not killing me.
You should feel bad, man.
I said, I'll change your ticket. No, come, please. Then he said, I'll come back. Please, I will do it. I said, no, I need you now. I need you right now.
You know what? Sometimes, is God telling you that maybe it's better to don't go that time. Maybe something could happen if I go that time. So I said, maybe it's the right time to go is not that day, but the day that Bear asked,
Yeah, I think like that sometimes.
Yes, it's better.
Yeah, you never know.
Yes, you never know.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's one of the most insane things. I'm so happy to have you here. The most requested guest on the JAXXON podcast. All of you guys in our JAXXON podcast Discord and on the YouTube and have been following us. We're about to hit 200,000 subs, and I couldn't think of a better guest. One of the greatest to ever do it.
I can say this is the earliest we ever had a podcast.
Yeah, we're here at 8 a.m. I've never seen him up this early. Unless he's leaving a girl's house.
I used to get up this early like when I'm training for fights. A fight camp.
Yes.
What was your camp like? Did you train 3 times a day when you was?
2 times a day. Sometimes I would do like one training that was more like recovery and this kind of things, but basically 2 good trainings, one in the morning, not so early, and one in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah. I should have did that. I should have did that. I used to have to wake up like at 7 o'clock and do a run.
Yes.
I counted that as training.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, then I go back and then I do like my stand-up. Or then I go back at night and do my ground, like wrestling or jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
You know what? All different practices.
Yeah, 3 times a day.
I was telling the history with him before. Can I tell again?
Yeah, of course.
So many years ago, I got to the UFC in 2007. I fought a couple fights, and then one of my best friends, André Galvão, jiu-jitsu guy. I was with him actually training yesterday. He was trained. Vanderlei invited him to train him. So I met Vanderlei and his coach, Alejara, his conditioning coach. I started to train with his conditioning coach. That in the to go quicker, I start to come to Vegas to train here with him, and then I start to go to Vanderlei's academy. So Vanderlei was going to fight Quinton in the UFC after the Pride days, so they decide to rematch here or in Vegas. So they go and I go with them, and they had the face-off. And then I think Vanderlei pushed you.
Yeah.
He pushed you.
He pushed me.
He pushed you, yeah.
He pushed me hard too.
And it was nice because I saw, I was in Pride once because I went to fight Jiu-Jitsu there in 2003. I don't remember if you fought the same day as Mirko Krokop fought Nogueira. Remember that?
Yeah, I don't think I fought that day. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think so. So, anyways, I remember, him like with the big chair, What's Jackson's chain?
Oh, yeah. It was Jackson's chain.
So, man, that for me was like, I was like 6 months into the UFC. And
wow.
Then, okay, Vanderlei pushed him. And then after the fight, some people don't know, but we all go to the same room because Dana is coming to Sanfrecce or sometimes nowadays Sean Shelby, or that time Joe Silva, right? Or Nick Manor nowadays. Yeah. So they come to say about the bonus, about, okay, guys, we want you to fight hard, to, do a good show. So they put Vanderlei and Quinton in the same room at MGM, and they were looking to each other and staring and saying something to each other. And there was a guy, Greg from UFC, they came to me because I already was speaking English because I was giving a lot of seminars before, so I learned. And Vanderlei didn't speak English so well, so I said, Demian, please hold this guy. Don't let him go with Quinton. If they start to go close, hold them. Don't let. I said, look, I'm just, a kid here. How am I gonna hold this giant? I said, oh my God, what am I gonna do here?
it got pretty intense back there.
Yeah.
Why would they put you in the same room as Vanderlei?
They had all the fighters back there, and it was the worst time too because we all had cut weight and we was hungry. You know how you get hangry?
Yeah.
All the fighters back there was like, I got an argument back there a few times, but this time it was right after Vanderlei pushed me, and he was like, I know you remember my knee because, he beat me twice with the knees.
Yes.
And I looked at him, and I was trying to keep my calm, because I trained really hard for that fight, and I just knew I was going to beat him. Right?
And you keep calm. I think
you
keep very
remember,
calm. I remember.
Calm.
You just said something laughing, but
I was laughing. It was funny because I was like,
calm. Yeah.
I was like, Vanderlei, you think I'm scared of you? He was like, yes, I know you scared of me. You better be scared of me. And I started laughing. I said, Vanderlei, I'm going to knock you out. I'm going to hurt your feelings. I'm like, why you think that I'm scared of you? Because you beat me 2 times? And because I know why I lost to Vanderlei those 2 times. He just figured like, oh, he beat me. The first time I fought him, I had to fight Chuck Liddell 45 minutes before, and then he had to fight some judo guy.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't realize. Your first fight against Vanderlei in Pride was like a Grand Prix style. So you had a fight before him.
Yeah.
And so you were already tired.
No, he had to fight too.
Yeah. But I'm just saying people don't realize that.
Yeah, people don't realize
Yeah, but Grand Prix is tricky because maybe, like you said, you fight like half an hour and the other guy fight like 5 minutes.
Right, yeah.
I did that Grand Prix in Brazil just before UFC, 3 fights at the same night.
Oh my God,
yeah.
And I was totally the underdog. And I have a guy, a friend of mine, he was organizing. He said, Demian, go, we're going to win. And I said, man, no way. Look, this guy, Gustavo Shimu, he's like 20 fights. And then Catel Cubes, the guy who trains Anderson, Thai boxer. I said, man, very experienced guy. And then Fabio Negão, remember Fabio Negão?
I remember Negão.
My friend.
Yeah.
We fought 15 times in Jiu-Jitsu and 14 times in Jiu-Jitsu. The last time was in that event. Fabio is my dear friend. We train after, but we fought many times because we are like from different academies.
Yeah.
So, and there was so many. Cacareco, remember Cacareco?
Yeah.
Cacareco was in the same bracket. There was, man, I forget, but so many good guys, 8 guys. So I go the first fight, midnight with Catel. I submit him. Second fight, Shimu won against another guy, really tall, strong guy. Was under 83 kilos.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody was bigger than me. So I win by points. And then in the final, I meet Fabio. And Fabio, I fought him 14 times in Jiu-Jitsu before. And I knew he, even though I won most of them, and I think I lost that time, like I won 10 and lost, I won 10 and lost 4 at that time to him. But every time, even the ones that I won was, him.
Yeah,
right?
He's very aggressive.
Very tough,
strong,
very
tough,
hard, very good technically.
Yeah.
So I said, man, and he was boxing. He He was competing in boxing. So in jiu-jitsu was hard every time. I said, and this guy was, he was fighting and competing in boxing in Brazil, like knocking people out because he was very powerful, And I said, what are I gonna do now? That was 4 a.m, the final.
Oh my God.
So midnight, 2 o'clock, 4. And then I remember I drank some energetic, just to keep awake. So we start. It was like Pride style. That was the biggest event in Brazil. They put like elevators to take you down to walk to the cage. So we go there and we start. I don't know too much what to do. I think Fabio expected me to try to take him down. I threw 2 kicks. Then he lifted a little bit his guard. Then he tried to shoot. He tried to go to my back. I get the guillotine like 1 minute of the fight. So when I get the guillotine 1 minute into the fight, I said, it's now. I just jump close the guard. I said, I will put all my effort here. I want this to end. And then he taps. I said, oh my, I was like, there's the move in that documentary, I'm going to show you. It's not out in Brazil anymore, but, I have. So it shows that fight. When I release the guillotine, I'm like this. Leozinho is in my corner. Rodrigo Comprido, I was like, what I did, it was nice. It was a good money for Brazil that time, So it was.
How old were you?
At that time, 27 maybe.
Wow,
something like that.
Why were you guys fighting at 4 o'clock in the morning? Why does the tournament start so late?
Too many fights. It was supposed to start like 9 and I ended up starting like 11, and then there was too many fights because there was 2 Grand Prix until under 83 and under 70 kilos, and there was 1 super fight also. So
now, do you remember how you recovered in between the fights? Do you remember what you had to do? Because that was the hard part about me doing a tournament.
Yes, the thing is like what I remember most is that. Even I was more a jiu-jitsu guy at that time. I had like 2 MMA fights or 3. I was very calm. I could lay down and almost fall asleep. So that's the day that I think maybe I made for that, I made for MMA because you're never sure, I was a good jiu-jitsu fighter already, I won a lot of stuff, but you never know because, I was pretty calm and people think, he's not the style of MMA fight. But then you start to realize the warrior you have inside. The same feeling I had with Anderson when I fought Anderson, that, when I was that was the toughest fight of my life. And in the second round, when I said, man, it's just a matter of time. I cannot find the distance. This guy is going to knock me out. It's just a matter of time. And then I said, okay, I will keep fighting. Let's see what happens. And then in the third round I got, and it started the same way, and his jabs were like, rocks, throwing rocks. His jab is so strong, It's like throwing rocks to your face. That's the strongest jab I ever felt. And I was all bloody because I blow my nose. You cannot, you cannot blow your nose, So though my eyes got big. So I said, okay, doesn't matter. If he goes to knock me out, I will try something. So my strategy to that fight was totally wrong. Was like, jab, move, and do a technical boxing with him. You cannot do a technical boxing with Anderson,
Yeah.
He's much better, bigger, longer. And he was the best in the world in that. So what I should do is what I start to do, and Chael did after, like just bring to a brawl, like, and try to, just clinch. Not so technical fight,
Yeah.
Because a technical fight is good for me. It's the same. If the guy goes fight me and try to do technical jiu-jitsu with me, it's always good for me, right? So then I just drop my head and give the front of my head to him because I know this is strong. And boom, when I got one and I saw he changed his eyes.
And you surprised him, huh?
I surprised him. And then I ran to him and I got another one after a while. So I said, okay. And then I keep going. So after that fight, one thing that I realized is like, man, you have something in yourself. Everybody has, that you don't believe till you face. And you think, because I always think I was, everybody has fear. Everybody has fear. And people think you don't have fear, right?
Right.
Yeah, and fighters, we deal with fear every day. There's no way you go to fight there, it's not fear of get hurt. It's fear of everything that can change your life after a loss or a win, right?
Yeah.
It's fear that everything that is gonna happen, not just to you, to your team, to your family, everything. Because what I say in Brazil when people ask, are you afraid of fighting? People say, no, I'm not afraid. You know, I love to do that. I did for free when I started. My first fight, I paid 30 reais, you know, back in 1996.
Wow.
I was a kid, like, and 18 years old. So it's not about that, you know. But winning or lose means what is going to happen after. What schools your kids going? What, you know, health insurance you're going to have? Which place you're going to live? Which thing you're gonna give to your life, which legacy you leave, and what you're gonna do after. You know that. So that's the pressure. And plus, everybody looking and judging your work. You know.
Yeah.
And they make you feel. They make you believe that you're much better than you are when you win. But when you lose, they make you believe that you're much worse than you really are.
100%.
So you cannot ever believe in the media, you know, and a lot of fans, because when you win, you're like the God. If you believe in that, is the, you know, start of the fall. But when you lose, they do the same in the opposite way. They make you believe you're much worse than you are, and you also cannot believe. You cannot be attached to that feeling.
Yeah.
You always talk about that. You always talk about how you never like to look at the media after fights. You never like to listen to people.
No, yeah, 'cause it can really mess you up. What a lot of people don't understand is I learned this back in the day when there used to be like the little chat rooms.
Like the forums.
The forums.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's when I stopped paying attention to the fans, because a lot of fans, like they like you, but they secretly kind of like hate you a little bit because they can't do what you do. They don't have the balls to do what you do. Not all of them, of course, but the ones that be talking shit the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't pay attention to, because after a fight, if, you know what I'm saying, we lose, that shit hunts us forever. Like exactly what he was saying. You're not afraid to fight, but I'm afraid to let my coach down. You let my family members down, because your family give you all this encouragement, like, all right, I'll be watching you going. Then, you know, you're afraid that, you know, your family's not going to be proud of you and stuff like that. That's the biggest fear and stuff like that.
I think so. Yeah, and we want to be, you know, like for sure, if you've been fighting so long, because you want to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
Every day you wake up, you want to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
You want to be the, and when you lose, and sometimes it's, because MMA, there is also a little percentage of lucky.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because my manager, Eduardo, he says, it's like poker. You know, normally the better guy will win. But sometimes there was a little percentage of you get caught in a submission or a knockout. And that's it. And that's the game. And that's what the fans like, because sometimes it's unpredictable. It's different than jiu-jitsu or boxing. Normally you know who is going to win. The best guy normally will win, right? It's harder to have an upset.
Right.
But in MMA, it's more common. And that's it. You know, sometimes you did the perfect work, everything right, but you just get caught. You know, that's it.
It's crazy you say that, because, you know, I was thinking about another fight coming up. I don't know your thoughts on it, but, you know, Alex, how you say his last name?
Yeah, Alex Pereira,
Yeah, you know, he's getting real popular right now. Is he super famous in Brazil right now?
He is. I think all around. He's amazing. I like him very much.
You met him before?
Yes. He came to my academy.
He seems like a nice guy.
He's
funny.
a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He is, but he's very serious. He's very serious in his job. He came in my academy. I love the guys. They are very good in their craft. In their craft.
Yeah.
So, you know, I love to see him, because he's so. His kickboxing is fundamentals, well done.
Yeah.
The same, you know, I believe a good jiu-jitsu should be. So he's like, it's amazing how you know what he's going to do. And that's what is impressive. Yeah. And he keep doing. So I remember I'm commentating to UFC Brazil now. So he's looking for that, you know.
Yeah, he got a good hook.
Yeah. So he jabs the guy to his stomach. Kick, low kick. He's good in timing, move. Then I remember, who was that fight? The guy kicked him to the
Jamal Hill.
And then Herb didn't try to go. He just say stop.
Yeah.
And that was amazing, you know, because he got his timing. And he doesn't want to lose that, right?
Right.
So he came to my academy a couple years ago, right after he got into the UFC, I think, or right before he got there. He trained jiu-jitsu. I remember I wasn't training that day. I had some something hurt, but I was in the training, so I run the training, and with another kickboxer that is my friend, and I remember I taught him some back escape that day, back defense, because I say that's something that you need, right? Because normally a striker, it's very common if you feel something, you give the back.
Right.
So at least you have the right reactions when you give the back. And man, I taught him, and after 10, 15 minutes, he was giving hard time to good jiu-jitsu guys to submit him from the back.
No way.
He's very quick, very strong, very strong.
Wow.
But does he learn really fast, or are you a really good teacher?
No. He runs
both.
fast. He runs
Probably
fast.
both.
Yeah, I teach well, because I've been doing that all my life. I do so many seminars. But I think he's good. He's good in learning.
You have to be at that level. I'm a big fan of his, but I was worried because you said about the MMA, like anything can happen, and the underdog, and he's fighting a big underdog, like the number 8 guy, Khalil Roundtree.
Khalil was in my seminar last year in Vegas. He trains with one of my students. Yeah.
How's his jiu-jitsu, you think?
I didn't roll with him. I just thought the first thing you see about Khalil is very powerful, very strong. But I don't know, because I didn't roll with just.
Oh, okay.
I just did techniques for all the guys, and he was in the mix with the guys. Another guy that I admire a lot is actually Alex, and how can I say, competitor? Straight. He's Adesanya,
Adesanya.
Yeah.
Adesanya?
Yeah, Adesanya.
Oh, yeah,
Man, he's so amazing. I told you.
Yeah.
In Auckland, in New Zealand. And my kid, Lorenzo, it's funny because he wants to be a striker, and he doesn't. He likes jiu-jitsu. He's good. He's more like a soccer player. But now he said he want to be like Poitin. He loves Poitin, or he wants to be like Adesanya. So the last day I was in New Zealand, I stopped in Auckland, and I look in the Google, and there was the gym was like 10 minutes from my hotel. So I said, okay, you want to see Israel? I said, yeah, let's go there. So we go there. Eugene, his coach, was there. And I didn't know, but he loves my style. Yeah. And he knew all my fights. So we talked. He was excited I was there. We talked. And then Israel was not there. He said, Demian, come here tomorrow morning. He will be here. So I came, and it was so nice. They prepare some little ceremony for me. They give me a Maori,
oh, yeah.
Necklace with some symbol of warrior that you cannot buy. Somebody needs to give you. And the culture there is so nice, the Maori culture, And Adesanya is living there since like 8 years old or 12. So he also, has this culture.
Yeah.
And they gave to me, and I said, they were trained. I said, after training, if you guys need anything. So I need to go to the airport. That time I was in rush, but they said, let's do like 10, 15 minutes asking questions. And then I showed some stuff. They asked some stuff. Was very nice. And they were very, very nice to me, So
yeah, they're good guys. I used to train with one of his coaches, Tristan. We call him Tonga.
No way.
Yeah, Unsung.
Really?
He's a kickboxing coach, the big Tongan guy.
Okay.
You remember Colin Oyama?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. He used to, Tonga used to come and train with us, and I sparred around with him years ago, back when I was fighting in Japan.
Okay.
And now he trains. He's one of Unsun's training. The guy, he's fun. He's a funny guy. He's a good coach.
Where would you guys train at?
We was training in
Anaheim.
No, we was training in Tustin.
Colin Oyama's gym.
Yeah, his first gym where I met him at. It was over at Punch Out in Tustin, and Tristan used to come to Big Bear with us and everything.
Damn. Part of your training camps?
Yeah, he was part of the training camp. Big Tongan guy. He's a good kickboxer.
Yeah.
You met him, right?
Yeah.
I think so. I think I met him there.
But it's a lot of big Tongan guys out there with you. You're like, which one's Tongan?
No, there's so many big guys there, training.
Yeah.
Damian, you said something I want to kind of go over, because I don't think a lot of the fans of MMA know this, that when your nose is bleeding, it's hard to blow out your nose. It's actually a good point. No one ever talks about
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to blow out your nose when your nose is bleeding.
Yeah, but you got to be very experienced, like I'm not originally a striker.
Okay.
Right? Maybe you know that, but when I was in the corner, I didn't even think. I just blow, and then when you blow, you have a little fractures here, and it is all connecting inside. So the air goes to your eyes and that's why I close my eyes. Yeah. 1 week after, we did an interview in one of the biggest shows in Brazil, Anderson and I. and there was nothing in my eyes, not even like a scratch. Everybody say, how you like that? Just 1 week after, because it was just the blow and then a little
pressure. It was just the pressure.
just the pressure.
Yeah.
1 week after, we did an interview together, and there was, nothing.
Because all the fractures in your nose, when you blow your nose, it cracks open and the air rushes to your eyes, right?
Well, all this stuff is connected.
Yes, yes, the sinus, everything.
Yeah, when you break your nose, guys, when you break your nose, in a way you break your nose, do not blow your nose. Just let it be.
Most people think get all the blood out, blow your nose, and then it just cracks everything up.
And first they said you break your nose, then they said you didn't break your nose. I think there was a little fracture there for sure,
Yeah.
The other thing you talked about, and I've never heard this story, is you said that Vanderlei walked up to you and whispered in your ear, "You remember my knees?"
No, he didn't whisper it. We was what he said.
Yeah. He was saying.
He was saying like about this far away. Okay.
And he just said it to you out loud in front of everybody?
Yeah.
And you were like, all right, let's get it then?
I didn't want to fight him back then because I don't fight for free. No.
Sure,
yeah, we know that.
Yeah, I don't fight for free.
Yeah.
And we was back there in the fighters meeting. We was all waiting for Dana White. Everybody's all upset and hungry and shit. And
people should bring the food to start to eat there, right?
Yeah, you bring you bring your little stuff. But I never did it because I like to drink my liquids. Then I like to eat real food. I didn't want to bring the snacks and stuff.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there waiting, pissed off. But I wanted to stay calm with Vanderlei. But this is something that a lot of people don't know. This was my first fight back after I lost my belt.
Oh yeah,
I lost my belt to Forrest, and I had that crazy thing that happened to me in the press when I went to jail and all this stuff.
Okay,
so it was like for me it was like a time in my life where I
come back.
Yeah, and I wanted to be more positive. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of stuff happened to me. I just got in a big fallout with a close friend that was my manager. It was like a father figure.
Yes.
So it's like a whole new world to me. I'm being more positive. This is why I made my whole positive change. And so I didn't want to get mad.
Get in the same energy.
Yeah, I didn't want to get mad at him because I just knew that I was going to knock him out. So he was saying like, I know you remember my knees. I know you're scared of me. I know you're afraid of me. And it made me think he was afraid of me.
Yeah.
No way.
That's how I felt.
Wow. So that was probably a big turning point for you for that fight. Huh?
It gave me more confidence.
Yeah, sure.
Why? Because when someone says that to you, you just know they're scared of you, right? That's crazy.
The pride was crazy, man. I went once. We went to fight. That was my first big trip in my life. 2003. We went to jiu-jitsu fight. I had a sponsor, a jiu-jitsu guy, a jiu-jitsu company, and they did like a challenge, Brazil against Japan. So there was me, Jacaré, Bibiano Fernandes, Mario Reis, all world champions. Yeah. And there was, who else more? Fabio Leopoldo, who teaches close to here. So we go there to fight the Japanese in Velfar. Velfar is like in Roppongi, a place there. Yeah. It was a nightclub, but they closed for the fights. And the same week they had the Pride, and we went there, and I was with Jacaré with me, and I said, man, I want to fight. It was amazing. The show was amazing, I want to fight here one day. He said, me too. And then, I remember meeting him like few years later. We fought in Curitiba. I fought Matt Brown, and he fought Vitor Belfort.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, and we are like about to go to the belt. Both, he ended up didn't going because UFC didn't give the opportunity to him, and I ended up fighting with Woodley after like year or year and a half. But after the fight, we talk and we say, "Man, that's crazy." We were in 2003, and that was 2015 in Curitiba. Like 12 years later, we both won. We both like, okay, maybe they are gonna fight to the belt next, and we are talking in the press conference because Jacaré and we fought in jiu-jitsu against each other 2 times also. He won one and I won one. And so we are talking and I said, man, is that crazy? Remember 12 years ago in Pride, we watch and we say we're going to be one day in the biggest event in the world. And now we are about to fight for the title. It was so nice,
Yeah, that's
so
crazy
nice,
how that works out.
I mean, legends like you guys, though, have that opportunity because your careers were so much longer. You guys could really control where you guys want to go, what you guys want to do. We see a lot of fighters now, they do a few fights and they're either out of the UFC or they have to go to PFL. You guys got to do your whole career wherever you guys wanted to do it. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but it was always like that.
Really?
Yeah, it's always like that. It's because we keeping consistency with the results. So we keep winning more than losing. So because I said, once you get in the UFC or Pride at that time, especially UFC, I think there is 3 ways it can go. That's what I say to the kids when they go. One, it's like, you're going to fight for the title and you're going to keep like top 5 all your life. Like, I did. Yeah. Like winning more than losing. Maybe winning like 80% of the fights and keep winning, keep always be there, near to the title and fighting for the title. The other way is like you're going to win the title. And the other way, you're going to just get kicked out because, if you keep losing, they just going to kick you out. But we had we are lucky to do well, Quinton and I, and keep going, and being a long time consistent fighting.
You know what else? My boxing coach said something that I never thought about. Bobby Rimmer, Coach Bobby. Yeah, he told me something about me, and that I can see about you too, and other fighters that's been there for a long time. We live different outside of the fighting. We live clean lives because I don't do drugs and stuff like that. Yes. I drink. I'm a social drinker and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can tell if you've been there for a long time. Yes. A lot of people, a lot of fans don't understand. Like some fighters, everybody. I don't judge anybody. Everybody have their own lifestyle. But some fighters, they go and they live a crazy lifestyle outside of fighting, and they let the fame go to their head, and then they focus more on the nightlife and the other stuff that living. And you don't see them have long careers. A lot of them. But people like John Jones, he has a long career and he have a crazy life. But he's a freak of nature.
Yeah, it's like I was with him this weekend. He's a great guy
at ADCC.
And I remember we gave the first big interview in LA. Yeah, it was John and me and AJ, Anthony Johnson.
Oh yeah,
we did to Bas Rude, interview. I don't know if you can find this interview, but anyways, but he's, like you said, he's a freak of nature. He's one of 1 million. It's not common because I remember, Vitor Belfort was training in São Paulo 2002 and 3. That was first time I had contact with like real professional MMA because Leo Vieira was coaching him in jiu-jitsu, and Josuel Destaque, another guy, was coaching in striking, another guy who ended up coaching Anderson and Jacaré, all those guys. So Leo asked me to go there, help with the jiu-jitsu.
You're talking about Leo Vera of Checkmat.
Yes.
So Leo Vera, the black belt of Checkmat, probably soon to be coral belt, who made champions like Buchecha, Jensen.
Yes. And
you started with him as well?
I started at Fabio Gurgel Academy, and he was one of the coaches.
Alliance.
Yeah, Alliance.
And then he went into Checkmat, but you stayed
yes.
there. Okay.
Anyways, Leo said, I go there, help us. And I go train with Vitor like for maybe a couple of years. And it was good because I started to see how was professional MMA. It's very different than jiu-jitsu at that time. Jiu-jitsu was not so professional. So I remember Vitor told he was going to fight Randy. And Randy was already like 40-something. He said, Randy, he does everything right, all his food, everything, all his organization. And then I start to realize when you're getting older, you cannot make the same mistakes you used to make when you're younger. So that's when people ask, how did you fight till 40-something in the UFC? With the, my last fight was with Belal, was like, I won 1 round, he won 2. So I was like competitive, with the best in the world because I understand that. And, when I was 20, I could go out and maybe sleep less, drink some beers, sleep, like few hours and go training and keep doing. And maybe don't recover, don't stretch, do nothing after training. And I was keeping doing well. But as you're getting older, you need to be more sharp, in the recovery, in the sleeping, in your food, with your food, with your rest, everything, So I think there's less space for mistakes when you're getting older. Then if you keep that, then I think you can go, further.
Yeah, I believe you 100% because Randy Couture, he was really on top of that, his diet and all that stuff. I need to get better at that because I'm thinking about doing some boxing matches before I retire, right? I'm 46 now, and it's kind of late to be doing boxing, so I'm only going to box people that's close to my age. I won't ever pull like a Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing. That's crazy.
A little crazy.
That's a little crazy. So thank you for like reminding me of that. You're right. You got to be, the older you get, you got to be super clean and
Yeah, and I think the food, the eating is the hardest part, at least for me, because it's something that is so related. You're Italian, right? Your family, so it's so related. In Brazil, a lot of Italian people, and also it's so related to your childhood. It's sometimes somebody from your family goes and give you a nice treat because and it's a nice occasion. So it's always like psychological thing, and it's hard. Sometimes you eat, you don't even want to eat.
Right? Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Especially you from the South.
Yeah, they don't understand.
I remember DC saying that that is so hard because in the South it's all like fried and so good food, Cajun food, this kind of thing.
And people don't understand. Like your family members, like they don't understand the training that you go through and that you have to treat your body a certain way. And some people get offended, like, oh, you don't want to eat my food, like, well, I'm training for a fight or I'm on a diet. I'm trying to. Yeah. People don't understand. So you're right.
It's interesting. I mean, we had a feast last night. We went to Nobu last night. I mean, we just kept eating.
What you eat last night?
One of everything.
What is that? What does that detail? What you eat?
Like Wagyu, little baked crab hand roll. What'd you eat last night?
Yeah, man, I've been traveling, man. My diet for the last 2 days, I'm not proud of. I'm not gonna like.
It's hard when you're traveling, right?
Oh yeah, because I was in like I was in like the backwoods of Texas.
He was in a forest. He was in a forest in Texas.
Yeah,
in forest,
100-acre forest, driving around in an ATV.
1,000 acres.
1,000 acres. Driving around on an ATV with Fuzi.
Yeah, and
doing what we did there. You did there.
Well, the guys, they was having like the contest shooting paintball.
Paintball shooting.
But me, I was just, they told me I can go and shoot people. I didn't want to hurt these. I didn't want to hurt these people living out there. They dehydrated and stuff. So I wanted to pass some water. Was passing F3s. I tried to get some snacks for them, but they didn't want the snacks. These guys it's really like survival.
Oh, really?
Yeah. These guys
for a game.
It was for a game to win $100,000, right?
Okay.
It's called Hunger Games.
Okay.
This streaming name Ice Poseidon was hosting and everything, and Fuzi was one of the guys there and everything. So these like real famous streamers.
Okay.
And I didn't know what to expect. We went and bought some fat flashlights and we bought some blow up pillows and
they sleep there.
In the bushes. And one guy has cuts and stuff all over him and they all trying to survive. And if you get shot 10 times with a paintball, you dead.
Okay, it's over.
Yeah, so you can get shot a couple times, but
it's okay.
But you get shot 10 times, you're dead. So instead of being like an asshole shooting these guys, I wanted to pass them out stuff, and some of the shit I tried to bring, they was like, no, I don't want that shit. I tried to bring them flashlight for nighttime, bug spray, because bugs and everything out there. Oh, they was like, I don't want a flashlight.
Bugs are the worst.
It's the worst. I don't want a flashlight. People gonna see where I'm at. I'm like, oh shit, my bad. I don't know. I wasn't told exactly what I was getting myself into anyway. If I had known, I probably could have brought some stuff that was more useful for him, like a compass or whatever. I don't know, but it was cool. So I couldn't really eat. I like to eat really. I eat really strict. I just eat steak, broccoli, and sweet potatoes pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's what I eat pretty much every day. But when I'm traveling, it's fast food and stuff, and I hate fast food.
Yes,
I hate it, bro.
Yeah,
it's not like Alex's restaurant. What is it, Dom?
Dom and Dal Vegito, both.
Yeah, one of the most famous chefs in the world. One of my favorite chefs, Alex. He gave him his black belt. He trained him.
Yeah.
Demian trained him.
Yeah, he started with me when he was white belt, and a friend of us said, Demian, Alex Atala wants to train, and he said just a friend of mine who's very big chef wants to train, and then I said not teaching, but he can go to my academy. I will find one of my students.
Yeah.
And then Rafinha Domingos, who is in Las Vegas now, he's one of the coaches of Khalil.
Khalil Roundtree.
Yeah. And he was training him for a while, but then we become friends because he likes to fishing. He likes the same things I like. So I start to do things with him that I used to do with my grandpa when I was a kid, and go out to fishing, nature, this kind of thing. So he's an amazing guy. You got to bring him here one day.
Alex was in your documentary.
Yes.
He was on a very famous show, my favorite show of all time, called Chef's Table on Netflix. And he gave him his black belt. I thought it was interesting.
Did he teach you how to cook too?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Some stuff, yeah. Because sometimes I go to his house, he goes to my house, and he teach me little technique. And it's funny because it's just like fighting, The secrets are in the little stuff. It's not the big stuff. It's the fundamentals. That's why I realized one day because, I was looking and he told me, look, some people, they look for the crazy sauce or this kind of thing, but the secret is like the temperature. How long is gonna take? Is gonna stay in this temperature? How long you're gonna change to this temperature? You know, basic stuff, because he said it's a chemical reactions. So if you understand the timing, you know, how long you leave the food there, how long you take, how what time you put the salt, what time is it's basics, you know, it's just like fighting.
Yeah, stuff you wouldn't think of.
No.
What's your favorite dish to cook now?
What I cook a lot in Brazil, because its tradition, is barbecue, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Brazilian barbecue.
Oh,
yeah, because it's simple, it's healthy, you know. So you just go there and
My favorite.
Yeah.
We did a photo shoot last week. I had the barbecue guys come, remember? The Brazilian guys?
Yeah,
They cooked in the front.
One time we went to you know, like those Brazilian barbecues.
Yes.
All you can eat. And
Yes,
his favorite thing, he was like, just bring me the Brazilian sausage.
Love the Brazilian
That's
sausage.
what he say every time.
I'm like, yo, load me up with all of it.
He was like, yeah.
Yeah, what? Yeah, what?
Watch out with the guys there. Watch out right
Nah, come on, don't make it. I was going with it. I didn't know you were going to go.
He might get confused.
I didn't know you were going that way with it. I said I like the pecan.
No.
Like Fogo de Chao.
I go there. The first thing I say, hey, bring me the guanana. I love the guanana. I love
yeah,
my favorite.
yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
You know, skirt steak.
Skirt steak, yeah,
He
picanha.
First he said, Brazilian sausage. Bring me all the Brazilian sausage.
It's like that. In front of a legend, it's like that. Because I like the sausage, just like that.
Yeah. You like the sausage?
All right, remember that. One thing a lot of people don't know is that you also train a lot of top guys. I know there's a nice story with you showing Alex Pereira a nice little armbar, like a choke, right? With Glover.
That was like that's
train
like month and a half ago in Vegas, right before he fight Yuri Prohaska, the second fight.
Because Glover's his coach.
Oh, his coach, he's a friend. We used to fight at the same time, and I was passing by then in the PI. I just did my weight training. I was with Ian Garry, you know, because he was going to fight MVP. So
He trains Ian Garry too.
yeah, he comes to Brazil and he asked me, and he's going twice a week in my academy, and I'm helping, you know. It's nice because, you know, it's something that I wasn't thinking about keeping involved with, you know, fighters. I was more like focused on the regular people. But then fighters keep coming, and it's interesting, you know, because it's you're always excited with the game, you know, especially in this level, like, you know, MVP and Ian is like a fight that interested me. Because it's like two of the best in the world in striking, you know. And
does Ian speak Portuguese?
He's learning. He can understand, and he speaks. He's speaking well. Yeah.
Tell him I said "chupa me pau."
What's that mean?
No, we cannot talk.
No? What does that mean?
He just sent me a message because
the jersey.
The jersey. Yeah. How are you doing, man? You know.
We sent Ian Garry a photo of an Ireland jersey.
Yeah,
paying him respect.
But
we said can't wait to have him on the podcast.
It's so nice to see guys in that level fighting.
Yeah,
you know, cage side like MVP. He's amazing also.
Yeah.
He's and he puts a good show also the way he get, you know, the walking.
Did you train Ian Garry for the MVP fight?
Yes.
I was impressed that he won that fight. I can say that it wasn't the best fight to watch.
Yeah,
but Ian, he's trying to protect that because he's undefeated, right?
Yeah, and not just that. I think he told me before the fight, he said, Demian, the fight might be not so crazy because both of us are like counters.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to make a mistake, right?
Right.
So they study each other a lot, like MVP, and everybody's like, no, strike is just like it's different than submissions. It's like, boom, and it's over. So, and they are they are very tall, both. They're very similar, you know. They control the distance very well. So it was like a chess game instead of, you know, it's interesting to see. But we were talking about
Glover and
the Glover.
Alex.
So in that week, I was doing some weights at PI.
Yeah.
And then I was leaving. Then Glover came to me and said he was training with Potter. I said, Demian, come here. How we escape from the triangle from the back? And I said, Glover, look, I know how to do that, but I'm much better in get the back than escape from the triangle, right? But he said, no. If you do, you know how to escape. And I said, okay. And actually, it was funny because I was training that, you know, because for young, you know, not for this fight, but generally, you know, if you get the triangle on the back, how to escape. So I showed some stuff, and Poitin, they put in his YouTube channel. Was nice. It was was interesting. I showed more like not a lot of details of techniques, but more the principles. You know what you should do, how you gotta escape, because you cannot get the technique in like one, you know, in 10 minutes, but you can understand the principle what you cannot do. So was funny. You know, it's very nice for me. One of the nicest things in my life, in my career, is to be able to be involved with the best in the world. Still. So it's so. I was in the ADCC and watching all the guys there. It's like have this access to everybody. For me, it's very interesting to see people doing things in the state of the art, right? And for me, you know, I still very curious to see the guys like the best in the world, how they do what they do, and yeah, that's it.
How's Glover doing?
He's doing well.
He's just coaching and stuff right now.
He's coaching. Yeah,
man, he's a great fighter. He was my last fight in the UFC.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I didn't remember that.
He beat me by decision. It was a great fight, man.
In Chicago?
Yeah, I never won a fight in Chicago.
It was in Chicago?
Yeah, I never won a fight
in the Chicago Bulls arena.
Yeah. I can't remember where, but I was supposed to fight him in Brazil.
Oh yeah.
I was training in Recife.
Recife, yeah.
I was training in Recife. I was going to fight him somewhere in Brazil, but I was training with those guys with Mario Sucata.
Sucata, yeah.
He had a lot of tough guys he trained with, and one guy we were doing Muay Thai. One guy kicked me, and I blocked it. He kicked me so hard
you broke.
No, it didn't break. It locked up.
Like when you do like...
Yeah, but you can't move it back this way. Every now and then, it just popped. You can hear it pop.
Yeah, one do like this.
So I had to leave. This is my first time ever pulling out of a fight. Because the last time I fought injured, Dana White talked shit about me. So I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing this no more. So I had to fly all the way to Connecticut from Brazil to go see this one doctor, Dr. C, Colin Coker.
Okay.
My English is really bad with names. Colin Coker. And we call him Dr. C because his name is hard to say.
Okay.
And this motherfucker had to dig into my back of my elbow to heal me up. So I had to pull out of that first fight. And then when I fought him, I was 100%, but I still underestimated him. I didn't think he was that good.
Damn.
I didn't know he was that good.
He's good, yeah.
He's good. He hit me one time. And I just flopped to the floor. I had to hurry up and get back up.
He's good. He's good striker, good jiu-jitsu. He has very good single legs.
Yeah.
I fought once in Chicago. I didn't win also.
Yeah.
I lost to Chris Weidman and I broke my hand. Look.
Oh, yeah.
I have a plate here and 6 pins. So I was with Chris and I did like an overhand and then pull to his head and then but we fought 3 rounds.
Yeah.
But I ended up losing, and was in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. I lost in Chicago twice. I can't remember who the other guy I lost to in Chicago.
Chicago's not the best for you, huh?
No, it wasn't the best for me.
Not for me either.
Yeah.
But hey, it's MMA. You win some, you lose some.
Of course, it's like, you know, that's life.
Yeah.
Life is like that, you know, because the problem when we lose, everybody sees, everybody judges, and there's too much thing involved. But And in the fighting, the difference, like, you know, sometimes I do keynote speeches in Brazil from like, you know, let's say stock market companies, this kind of thing. So what I say is like, if you are entrepreneurs, so if you like the top 1,000 entrepreneur in, how you say, entrepreneur in the world, you're gonna be rich, you're gonna, you know, everybody's gonna praise you. But to be a fighter that people will remember, you're gonna be all your life like top 10, top 5, you know. It's different, you know, there's less space.
Yeah.
So those guys, they make a lot of mistakes and they recover. And with fighters, we have much less space to make mistakes. So that's why, you know, people I think ask us to do like these speeches because we be in the top. We cannot make a mistake. You cannot make a mistake. So for so many years that, you know, people want to see this mindset.
Yeah,
such a good way to put it too, because you guys have to stay at the height of your game because it's not a team sport. You have to be the guy winning or losing. No one else can fight for you. You were at ADCC in Vegas this weekend.
Yes.
You were also ADC champion in 2007.
Yes.
5-time jiu-jitsu world champion. What did you think of the Craig Jones Invitational ADCC? Do you think the jiu-jitsu landscape right now is skyrocketing? Like,
I think so. I think it's growing so much. Man, ADCC was amazing. It was in T-Mobile Arena. Imagine it. And in one point I look, it was like almost full.
What?
wow.
Yeah.
At a jiu-jitsu tournament?
Yeah. T-Mobile, like 20,000 people. There was probably like I don't know, maybe 15,000 people. I don't know if when they say 20,000, they count the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then it's maybe less because the floor was the matches. But I look and say, man, look where, the jiu-jitsu, get. And in the other event, they were giving like $1 million prize.
$1 million for over 88 kilo and under 80.
Yeah.
Two divisions.
Under 80 and over 80.
Under 80 and over 80.
Kilos.
So Cade Rotolo, he won the under 80. He won $1 million. He beat Levi in the finals.
Jones,
who did well, but there was a lot of issues about the butt scooting and going to the floor straight to the guard. And then in the over, we had Nicky Rod, our Jackson athlete. Both are Jackson athletes.
Yes.
But Nicky Rod had Jackson all over his things, and he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I saw
4 submissions, 4 wins.
He's amazing.
Oh,
I saw him holding up a big suitcase full of money. Was that real money?
$1 million.
I don't know. I don't know.
Craig Jones gave away cash.
Cash. How you fly with $1 million cash? You can't do that no more.
No.
I think he had to drive home. Boy, he's coming here tomorrow. He's coming to the JAXXON podcast tomorrow.
Man, it's scary. Drive home.
What? You can't do that in Brazil. Huh?
No, never.
No
I
way.
would stay there till now. I would be now there at the venue waiting some friends, some police, special force come, to help me.
You did a crazy battle too in like a super match against Benson.
Yeah, I did in Polaris is an event. Like grappling fight, was nice. Ben is a great guy and very athletic, still like very athletic, very strong and flexible. It's nice to do, and he likes jiu-jitsu, so it's nice to do this kind of matches. But I'm thinking about how we're gonna do. I don't think it was real cash.
No, I think Craig Jones, he brought $1 million to Joe Rogan's show because his team and the investment company gave him the cash. So they could give away the cash.
Imagine you going to the bank and say, I wanna, withdraw. How much? 1,000, 2,000? No,
$1 million.
One.
Yeah.
One what? 1,000? No, 1 million.
Craig Jones is incredible. He stayed here for a week getting ready for the event with Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold brought him here. And Craig Jones just wants to see jiu-jitsu on a whole nother level. He loves grappling. He's doing
funny.
so much.
He's very funny.
Yeah, the B-team videos.
Renato Laranja in his corner.
Yeah.
And they put a mic on him, and man, he was fun, say, should I need to speak Australian to you for you to understand?
Renato was saying funny things all the time.
Is this the first time that's on that level that somebody went against a girl?
That was more for the show,
Gabby?
Gabby's a very nice girl, she's personally very nice, but I think it's more for the show. They did for people not from the fighting world watch. It's more to be like a fun thing in the middle, and I think everything is valid if you bring attention. Of course, if you don't hurt other people, but was good because there was 2 big events. Maybe would be better if it was not in the same day, right? Because this is more like an ego thing, to try to put down ADCC, and there's no reason. ADCC is like, like I said, that was my dream more than Jiu-Jitsu Worlds, everything, to win ADCC. Because I knew I was going to MMA since I was, younger.
Yeah.
So when I saw ADCC first time in 1998, I said, I'm going to win this one day. Then I get, there was a trials in Brazil, but you need to be invited for the trials. And that time we just broke with our team. There was a lot of politics. I didn't get invited. So I was really sad for 2003. I didn't get invited.
Yeah.
And so there was a trial for 2005. 2 trials. You don't need to be invited anymore. You could just go. So they did 2 trials. The first one to fight ADC 2005, that was the end of 2004. They did 2 trials. The first trial would be 4 fighters. You're gonna get out out of 60 for each division. And then next weekend they have another trial. Is these 4 fighters with the 4 more that they were invited to the trials. So I wasn't invited. So I need to fight this first one. I fought Broly's team, all this guy. I won. I cut here, a big cut. The guy wouldn't let me keep doing. He said, no, you're gonna stop. And I said, no, this is my dream, please. The finish was a Finnish judge. And then we start to fighting again, the semifinal. I cut again against a guy who I already lost before. So I ended up winning. Next day was the final with Braulio Estima, who ended up being like world champion, ADCC, Jiu-Jitsu, absolute world champion. I won. And then next weekend, I had the fight in Brazil, in São Paulo. Then I fought like Fernando Margarida, all these amazing guys, and I won also. But the funny history is like 2 months before the trials, or 6 weeks before, or 2 months before, I hurt my knee. 2 months before, I need to do a surgery. I went to Sweden for a seminar. There was a bar fighting. I got stabbed with a knife. And so I came back to Brazil. I need to do surgery on my knee. I couldn't train well because, it was painful. They stab. I need to stitch, go to the hospital. So I go to the doctor and say, okay, I need to fight in 6 weeks, competing in grappling. He said, no, we're going to do a surgery on your knee. It's like just meniscus, but he said, the ideal in that time, now it's quicker, but I want you 2 months recovery, 8 weeks. I said, no way, I need to fight in 6 weeks. So he said, okay, we're going to try to shortening this for 4 weeks, and then in 2 weeks, you have 2 weeks to train. But going out of no training, 2 weeks of training to fight the hardest guys in the world. So I say, let's do that. And he said, look, there is a risk because your knee is not going to be so strong. Maybe something can happen. You can break your ligaments, something like that. So I train 4 weeks. I did the recovery after, for 4 weeks. Vitor find me a good physiotherapy in Brazil at that time. I went to that guy for free because I didn't have money. So after 4 weeks, I start training. I go first training with Robert Drasdale, who ended up winning a couple years later the absolute. So Robert submitted like 6 times first training. I said, oh my God, how are you gonna fight in 2 weeks? Because we used to be competitive to each other, even if he's much heavier. But then I said, how are you gonna do? And then I said, I have 1 week of hard training, and then it's like fight week. So I try to push like for 10 days. Then I go win the first trials. I win the second. Then I end up was my second time in US, to ADCC in Long Beach here. Then I got to the final, and there was 20 minutes fight because they have the overtimes. The final. So 30 seconds before the end of the fight, I said, I go into overtime because I was fighting Jacaré. Jacaré is very explosive. So I want to push the fight for half an hour, 40 minutes, because the overtimes. And because then he started to lose his explosiveness. And I'm more like a marathon guy, keep going. So 30 seconds before the end of the 20 minutes, which is like the length of time from the final, they gave me 1-, the judges. Wow. Just because they said I walked backwards, something like that. And I said, oh my, I didn't see that. So when the fight was over, I said, okay, let's start now. The match was over. So they just raised his arm. Then I looked nobody realized. Just Jacaré saw that. And I didn't understand why he started to avoid the fight. The last 30 seconds said, that's weird. He's not want to engage. But he was the only one who saw. They gave a minus to me. So I was destroyed. That was 2005. And I didn't even want to fight absolute. I said, man, I just want to leave. So I said, next time, I will make sure nothing is happening. I will win. And then in the 2007, then I fought and then I won. Then I submit the final.
Wow. And the ADCC 2007 championship was a good one too.
Yeah, I fought Rafael Lovato Jr., who just got to the final now.
Just made the finals recently. Yeah. One thing a lot of people don't know is the history of you, and I know we're getting towards the end of this thing, but I do want to kind of dive into this real quick, is that you come from Brazil and you come from this amazing lineage of jiu-jitsu athletes. You guys like Vitor Belfort below you and Gaval, and you have, Leo Vera with Checkmat and the Alliance guys. How did you start training with Leo Vera? How did you meet Vitor Belfort? Who was training with who first? Like, what is the story there?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I did some judo because in São Paulo, it's like, very big Japanese colony. So a lot of kids, they do judo. But my mother just put me there. I don't remember why, in some YMCA, club. And then when I was 11, there was my friend who is he ended up being world champion in taekwondo. Actually, he helped Ian for this fight, you know.
Garry?
Yeah, to mimic Ian, to mimic the MVP, because MVP is like a taekwondo guy, you know.
Yeah.
So this guy, I met him, he was 11. He came to the school I was studying. And, you know, he was already very good in taekwondo at 11 years old.
Yeah.
So I want to come back and train because I always loved fighting. And that time, especially in Brazil, you know, we want to be able to protect yourself, you know, in the streets if you need, especially in São Paulo. So, but it's something that I love. I love sports and I love, you know, training. So I go to a taekwondo academy, ask my mother to go there. My mother didn't have, you know, money that time. And so she goes and she writes some checks to the guy. But then, you know, after like 1-2 weeks, she said, I'm not going to be able to pay that. I said, oh, I was destroyed. So she goes there and asks the checks back. So we find another academy, was a Kung Fu academy that was like half of that price, much cheaper, very cheap in that time. So I started to train there, and then I went to another Kung Fu academy. I got, you know, they didn't charge me, and this, you know, end up that I did that. You know, I watched the first UFC, like, you know, all of us, you know, and I said, I want to do that because that's the biggest challenge. But even before that, I saw MMA fighting in Brazil. Vale Tudo in that time. Renzo Gracie, Ralph Gracie, and Marcelo Bering.
Oh, yeah.
They fought a Vale Tudo fight in Brazil in 1992 before UFC. And everybody was in São Paulo. Then I went there, you know, and I watched and I said, oh my God, that's the biggest challenge a fighter can have. I was never a street fighter, but I want to be involved with the hardest challenge that you can have to see who is really the best one. I would do that one day. I want to train jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu was was for rich people.
Oh.
Yeah, very rich people. Today there's, you know, a lot of social projects for kids in everywhere. But now, in that time, was just, you know, very elite. You know, was very expensive, so I couldn't go. And also, remember there was like rivalry between martial arts. And I was afraid to tell to my Kung Fu coach that I wanted to go to. So I ended up started jiu-jitsu later, you know, in the late years of my teenager. So I started with an academy that was like cheaper, you know, to pay. And then when I start to, you know, do more stuff and get more money with working, then I go to Fábio Gurgel Academy. And then I meet Léo Vieira, Fernando Tererê, and Léo Negão, all these guys who became my brothers, you know. And then from there, you know, other kids start after a while, you know, like André Galvão and Robert Drasday, all these kids, they came
the greatest
after.
in the world.
Yes.
Right there.
Did you know that MMA was basically born in Brazil?
I mean, I don't know if it was born in Brazil, but I know
Where you think it came from?
MMA?
Yeah.
I think it's
Vale Tudo.
No, well, Vale Tudo, I know about Vale Tudo because Marco Rujas in Laguna.
Yes,
and I grew up going down there and watching all my friends trained with him, and I thought it was the coolest thing.
Who was doing it before Brazil?
No, I don't know. I think MMA, like the current form that we watch MMA right now, is more of like an American thing.
Who owned the UFC
martial arts.
Who owned the UFC before the Fertitas and Dana White bought it?
Gracie and then the Fertitas
All
came
right,
in.
then.
But
Yeah, the thing is like,
But I'm not saying the actual art form wasn't invented there. I'm just saying what the modern day fans on like the JAXXON podcast
I didn't say
watch.
that. No, I didn't say that. I said, was it born in Brazil?
But you didn't say it right.
I did say it right.
You didn't say it
I
right.
said, did you realize it was born in Brazil?
You got to say, did you realize it was created in Brazil? You said born.
That's the same shit.
No, it's not.
It's the fucking same shit.
No, it's not.
look,
You got to understand the history, brother.
No, you gotta
been doing
understand
your
the history.
research. I've been doing my research, Sway.
there was a book way before MMA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's on Amazon.
Yeah, 3 books. I helped the guys to translate the first one to English, but they need to translate it's about martial arts in Brazil since 1800s. The first newspaper thing that they found in Brazil. So they talk about jiu-jitsu, capoeira, savat, you know, boxing, catch as catch can, everything that was in Brazil in the past. So what happens is the Grace family, they learn some jiu-jitsu from Maeda, and then they start also have crossover with capoeira guys. And capoeira at that time was not just the dance, was more like fighting, you know, like the because it was created by the people, they were slaves. They brought some form of thing from Africa, but they developed in Brazil, and they used to fight with that. And there was no even music. It was just fighting, but fight with kicks and slaps and this kind of things, and more like fight with a lot of people, because they do like this, and they run and they kick, and it's more like a street fighting thing in that time. And they even have like fight with knives and this kind of things in capoeira. So the Gracie, the history is very interesting because a lot of capoeira guys start to train with them also. And Helio Gracie, his first fight, he won by kicks. He won by kicks. Wow. That because they train a lot of kicks. So they mix the levantada técnica, the technical stand-up, the pisão is all from capoeira, right? Actually, you gotta bring here Pedro Valente. The guy who teaches him, he's amazing. He will give a lesson of that. Yeah. So the Gracies start to get things from catch wrestling, from jiu-jitsu, and they mix and they did something for, one-on-one challenge. And they start to do this challenge in Brazil. There was all around the world the challenge, this kind of challenge. But sooner there was forbidden in Europe, forbidden US, and Brazil keep doing because it was off the radar, it was like third war, nobody cares. So they keep doing for many years like this. So they start to develop this Vale Tudo thing. So Rorion Gracie, he knew, that the efficiency of what they develop in Brazil, they create, because they pick up things from traditional jiu-jitsu, then even, Maeda, he was fighting challenges, so he knew some stuff from boxing. So they learned boxing. Carlos and Helio, they are competing in boxing in the 20s. There was things in the newspaper, they were competing like the state champions in boxing, Carlos and Carlos Gracie. Yeah, Carlos Gracie. They did George Gracie, he did catch wrestling fights.
Yeah.
So it's all mixed because they want to just be effective. So they pick up stuff from all the art. There was capoeira guys teaching them how to kick and this kind of thing. So they keep doing that till like the 60s or 70s. Then there was one time there was not too much anymore because the Bruce Lee films start to go. So, the grappling arts start to be like, people think, this is not effective.
Right.
So the end of the 70s, early 80s, they did a couple more Vale Tudos. Rorion moved to US. And then he said, man, I will do a Vale Tudo show in US. Because if you do in US, it goes prior to the war. So he gets some students to found, and they create the UFC. Right, and of course, like you said, it's at first you remember it's forbidden in many states.
Yeah,
and some states are allowed. They do in indigenous reservation, right?
Yeah.
Native American reservations and this kind of things. So then Rorion sold to somebody who sold to the Fertitta, and then they start to really grow.
Yeah.
And of course, during this process, they change the rules to make a little bit
more legal.
Less danger, no kicking to the ground, like pride, that is very dangerous, I think.
You think so?
I think so, because in this level now, the athletes, if somebody's like almost, going, almost passing out, like you get knocked down, and then you go, and the referee doesn't have time to kick, maybe, maybe.
I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if I ever said this on the podcast or whatever. My memory is not the same, but I was working on this move in Pride that probably was going to be very dangerous. You can knee to the head on the ground.
Yes.
And I was perfecting this move to where you do like a cartwheel over the guy's guard and you land your knee right in his face.
Oh, man.
I was working on that move, but I never had
the chance.
I never had a chance to pull it off in the fight. I remember you put those puncher bags on the ground and you work it and you work it and you work it. But I never did it in the fight. And I'm kind of glad I didn't. I did a little bit. I used to love kneeing the head on the ground.
Yes,
I used to love that. And I can't remember who I saw doing it first, but it was probably one Muay Thai guy. When you side mount, you bring the knee up and you swing it down, you hit him.
Yes.
I like all those moves. And you might be right. It's probably more dangerous than I thought it was. I always stayed away from stumping people.
Yeah,
I did it one time.
The box guy, they did a lot.
Oh my
they
God,
trained that, passing the guard, like stomping on people. But
you'll destroy someone's face, their bones, everything.
But no one ever got hurt really bad.
No. They stomps are more okay. I think the problem is like And Tiro de Meta, when the soccer kick, the guys kind of, and Vanderlei should do like run to the side and kick. This one I think is a little bit dangerous, and that's what people don't realize. I was talking to Pedro Valente, and he said Helio Gracie, he never turned into the guy's legs. And I like to do, Rickson does, but he said no, because he was a skinner, and he would fight sometimes guys like twice his weight. And if he turns, probably he got a sprawl on his head, and the guy could knee. There was no this rule. Yeah. There is no rule against knees to the face on the ground. So he always recover guard. He always he never give the back either outside or inside, because of the knees. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I never even thought about that, because I've ate a lot of soccer kicks from Vanderlei and shoeboxing.
Yes,
I think all three of them kicked me, and soccer kicked me at least once.
Yeah, that's their
that's their thing.
Trademark.
Yeah, their trademark. Yeah, and I was always against it, except for one time I did it. I already talked about why I did it, but at one time I did it to some Korean guy. You don't take. I feel bad about it now, but Alan Goes, he got hurt pretty bad with some knees. Yeah, from the butt. So I know the knees were dangerous, but the soccer kicks I didn't, and the foot stumps I didn't think they.
I think Murilo Bustamante with Dan Henderson also. I think he shoot in that pride, then Dan Henderson, knee into the top of the head.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
One of the things in your fight against Usman, it's one of the most viral videos. Joe Rogan's talking about, oh my God, how can you stop the fight? How can you pull? How can you pull the fight right now and pause it and let Demian? How do you tell him? Maybe he's stalling or something when it's Demian Maia. And Herb Dean says, Demian Maia getting ready to take someone's back. I would never stop that. I would let him keep going. Do you feel like that was stopped?
That fight, there is a funny history, because I was in a little bit. Hard negotiation with UFC, we had sometimes, because there was a problem. My prime was when I won a win against Masvidal, was my 7th win in a row. So finally I got the chance to fight with Woodley for the title, which is kind of unlucky of life, because Woodley is the worst game for me, like short wrestler, very strong, powerful. But there was one. It had one more problem, because after I fight Masvidal, I said, I hurt my finger, I hurt my ear, and not in the fight, right after. And I said, it's no problem, I will have like a few months to the fight. And then they call me and say, you have 4 weeks to fight Woodley. And I wasn't even, able to train well, because I couldn't close my hand to punch. And even to shoot was hard, because my ear was really blowed. And then I said, I cannot do that in 4 weeks. Woodley is like Woodley, the champ. And that's the problem. My last chance to fight for the title, because I was like 38 years old already, or 39. Yeah. And I mean, my prime, but I want to be able to get well there. And I don't know if I ever said that, but we, in the English podcast, but in English podcast, but then they said, no, we need you to 1 month. And I said, I'm not going to fight. And then they said to my manager, if he doesn't fight, maybe he's never going to fight for the title anymore. And then my manager was really upset and said, Eduardo, look, it's better to regret from something that you did than for something that we didn't do. Because it could be just a bluff, but it could be real. So let's say I don't fight and I never get the chance anymore. I would always in my life would be, why I didn't do that, And 4 weeks, I always train. It's not the worst, but it's not, if you hurt and if you have something. So I ended up fighting him. I lost by points. Then I fought Kobe. I was in a winning streak of 7. So I lost to Woodley. Then after I lose to Kobe. So then we said, okay, now they want me to fight Usman. And then Eduardo said, my manager, I don't want another wrestler now. I want to have a little break, and then we're going to figure out how to do. Then they pushed, we had a problem, and then there was like, okay, well, we got to fight, we need to, and then was very hard negotiation for like maybe almost, I don't know, 6 months, but like, how it's hard.
I know exactly.
It's, of course, it's behind the scene, but it was a very hard negotiation. So Eduardo said, Demian's not gonna fight now. He needs to recover. He needs to do this and that. And I want different style now for this fight because it was two wrestlers, and then there was, in one point I said they just gonna kick me out because okay, what can I do? And that's it. I did my career. Maybe let's see what happens. So they put Santiago Ponzinibbio to fight Usman in Chile. That was the first time UFC was going to South America. Besides, that was not in Brazil, right? So they need a big fight. They put Santiago Ponzinibbio with Usman. I think 2.5 weeks before the fight, Santiago Ponzinibbio pulls out the fight. He hurt his hand or something. So they call Eduardo and say, we need Demian to fight. 2.5 weeks. And then Eduardo said, but how? And then I said, no, we need, we can, negotiate things and let's do that. And then Eduardo come and said, no, Edu, we're not going to fight in 2.5 weeks. He said, look, but I can negotiate this and that. I said, okay, let's think about it. So we end up, signing the deal like 2 weeks before the fight.
They doubled his asking his first.
They 2 weeks before the fight. So I pretty much had a week of training.
Wow.
And then fight week.
Yes.
And I go fight that monster. Usman for me is one of the best athletes ever. He's amazing because he's tall but not too tall to be skinny. He's strong, very athletic. Technically, he's a wrestler, but he's so good in striking because he's one of the few guys that can switch bases. So he follows you here. If you go other side, he switch bases, switch stances. He's so technical, so good. He's not so powerful like Woodley, but he's more technical. And I think he's more athletical too. Not so explosive, but, very, very good fighter. He ended up, being the champion.
Yeah.
So I go to that fight, and man, I don't know how I got into my best position, to his back, put one hook, and then, I punch him a little bit, stay there. And I need time there because, he was overhooked. Actually, he hurt his shoulder, he told me after the fight, because he was holding me so tight, because his glove gets stuck. And that was lucky for him because he couldn't even pull even if he wants to pull the hand. His overhook gets stuck. So I start to move. I say, okay, it's just a matter of time. Then the referee say, work, and then I do a couple punches, but in like 15 seconds, something like that. And he just break the fight. And I was, oh my God.
Who was that referee?
I don't remember.
A white guy. Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't
But I
remember.
remember Herb Dean talking about it on Joe Rogan. He said that, the ref said he had to stop it due to lack of activity. And you have a guy who's known as one of the greatest ever to take it back. And he's literally
I
about
think
to
was
work the
unlucky
position.
with the referee. Maybe he doesn't understand, If it was another judge, maybe,
Yeah.
he-
I'm gonna tell you why that was so disturbing. I can't remember where I was, but recently I was watching the fight somewhere, and maybe it was the UFC, and it was the same thing. Somebody was on another fighter's back for a long time. I was like, stand him up, ref, it's boring.
Yes.
And they was like, you can't stand him up right there.
Yeah.
Because, he's on his back fighting for a position.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, what they do now, the unified rules is like, if you are in, like say, inside the guard, they give you some time, but they can stand up. If you're in half guard, then they wait more because it's more dominant position. If you're in the mount or back, unless you sleep there, they say they're not going to stop because it's so dominant position. Right. So you're kind of favoring the other guy,
And you can't contest anything like that in MMA, right? You can't.
Yeah.
There's no.
It's just unfortunate.
It doesn't work like that. There's a story about you and BJ Penn, huh? Going overseas,
Yes,
to train.
Yeah,
because both of you guys got your black belts in a few years. Very rare.
Yes,
because you started training jiu-jitsu at 19. BJ got his black belt in like 3 years. One of the only Americans ever to go win
the world
championship in Brazil.
Yeah,
and then you guys went overseas, right?
Yeah. Well, BJ is amazing, man. Amazing boxer, amazing jiu-jitsu guy, and
the GOAT.
One of the best ever. I always love to see him fight. He's a very nice person too. So we got invited in Abu Dhabi to go to the world. They start to do this world professional jiu-jitsu championship that they pay prizes for the gi fights, not just ADCC, but gi. So they invite me and BJ. And one day, Sheikh Tahanun, he invited us to go to the palace to train with him. I had just had a surgery in my knee, so I couldn't train, but I was there with them, talking about position. And Sheikh Tahanun is amazing how his deep understanding of jiu-jitsu, because he trains for even before me, he's amazing in jiu-jitsu. He's good, he's really good in jiu-jitsu. So he trains with BJ. I was watching. Then we exchange, and also I show some position, but he also shows some positions to me. It's very interesting, So it was very nice experience to be with him. But he's busy. So we finish. We talk a little bit. Then we come back to the hotel. So next day, his secretary guy came to us and say, Demian, I will pass into the hotel. We have some gifts for you and BJ. So he gave us a little box, and I said, okay, we go back to the room, and when we open, it was a Rolex, like a Daytona Rolex, very nice watch. Yeah. And so, I normally don't use too much watches, but I put because it's nice, you know. Yeah. And then when I get in Brazil, of course, it's not so safe. No. I put in the box and left in my father-in-law's house. And one day, you know what they do in Brazil? They do like the fake kidnapping. They call and pretend that you're kidnapping your kid or something, but it's not true. They do from the jail or sometimes from somewhere, but they make you believe, and they don't let you hang the phone to call the other person. So they do that in Brazil. They call my father-in-law in the middle of the night and say, look, I'm with your daughter here. If you don't, put some money in this street, in this, you put in this garbage here, the money, the bag of money, like, I don't know, 10,000 or something. We're going to kill her. We're going to do this and that. And then he was desperate. And if you hang the phone, we're going to kill her. And then he was desperate. He was like waking up, and he couldn't call her because he was desperate. The people freeze. If you're, especially older people, sometimes they get, they get there in the middle of the night. So they start to talk and they're smart. So they start to throw stuff. And we know you have like jewelry, and a lot of people they have. And then they say, no, it's for my wife. Okay, so I want this jewelry also. And I know you have a Rolex. They just throw away things. No, but it's not mine. It's because they think, they were with me or with her, and she's telling them. Oh, so you're going to bring the Rolex. So he got the Rolex. He got his car and go to some, garbage and throw the Rolex and some money and leave. And then they call us in the middle of the night when finally it was over. And my wife, we wake up and they said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm sleeping. No, but they kidnapped you. No, they didn't. We are sleeping. What happens? And then they tell the history. So I end up losing the watch that I get from the Sheikh, from Tahanun. But, and they say, oh, sorry, we're going to find a way to pay. I said, no, don't worry. It's just a material thing, and I don't care. And, it's a nice history to tell in a podcast,
But especially living in a place like Brazil, that's probably best for you, because one day you might forget, you might be wearing, no, you probably never wear Rolex and forget about it.
Not in Sao Paulo. Maybe if you go to other places, it's much, because if you talk about Brazil is big like in US, not so big like US, but, very big. So some cities, like countryside is very easy, very calm, very safe. But if you go to big capitals like Recife, like São Paulo, like Rio, like Fortaleza, then you gotta watch out, very much.
Bro, Brazil is the only place I ever been in the world that has a timer on the stoplight. Why? Yeah. Why you think? You stop at a stoplight, motherfucker come rob you. Mm-hmm. You know how long that light is going to be red for. So you can plan. And a lot of people wasn't stopping at the stoplight.
No, during the night, nobody stops. Now I stop because my wife got robbed like a couple years ago. So I that's crazy. People don't understand here. But I bulletproof her car. So her car is bulletproof, because she goes with my kids. So she get like in the stoplight, they just put a gun to get the cell phones, they get the cell phone. Because cell phones are available now, the iPhones and stuff. So people, they go to rob your telephone. So it's crazy to say bulletproof a car. I told that to some friends in Finland, I have many friends in Finland. They say, just a diplomat or the president will have a bulletproof car, In Brazil, so many people, they have, even middle-class people. But that's the sad thing, because Brazil is beautiful. The nature is beautiful. Yeah. People are nice.
I only hear the best things about Brazil from all the fighters.
Yeah. Normally people are very welcoming. If you go there, you're funny, everybody wants to help. Yeah. But normally, of course, there is all kind of people.
Yeah, it's good and bad people everywhere. Yeah.
But it's that part, makes me very sad. That's the only part that sometimes makes me think about leaving. You know, at least São Paulo, maybe not out of Brazil, but at least São Paulo. Yeah.
No. A lot of people in our JAXXON podcast Discord, they were asking, your last fight was against the current champ, welterweight champ, Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah.
What do you think about him as a fighter, his style?
Actually, a friend of mine, he called me, all my losses, but I think 2 were all from champions in my career. Wow. So I think besides when I was middleweight, I lost one. Was a tough fight with Mark Munoz.
Yeah,
I lost to Mark. He was a champion.
He's a great wrestler, though.
Great wrestler in the 8-4, and also Nate Marquardt. But Marquardt was a Strikeforce champion, but not a champion in the UFC. And in the under 77 kilos, like the welterweight, the weight that I belongs, because 84 was too much for me. Middleweight. I think besides Durinho, like Gilbert Burns, all the guys were champions, like Colby, Usman, Woodley, Bilal. I think everybody that I lost in this welter division, besides Durinho, they were all champions.
And look,
Colby.
And you had some short notice, like 1 week fights.
Yes.
Like people, if it's 2 weeks notice, you don't train that.
Exactly.
That 1
That's
week.
what people don't realize. You don't train till Friday before the fight, right?
Yeah, a lot of fans don't understand that.
No.
You take 1 week off.
And even with the concept of that, like a guy like Bilal, who they say has this like Habib style kind of.
Yeah, he's very good. Very good.
Yeah, very methodical, very technical. Not the showman maybe everybody wants, but he gets the job done.
Yeah, strategically perfect.
What do you think about fighting all of your career losses? Was he one of the toughest guys you had to go against, you think?
For me, the toughest was Anderson,
Anderson Silva?
Anderson Silva, yeah. Usman for sure was very tough. In this level, everybody's tough. But Anderson is the only time in my life that because even the fights that I lost, even Bilal, I think I won the first round, if I remember well.
It was 2-1. He got 2, you got 1.
Yeah. And many fights that I lost, I won the first round. I also, there's 2 more guys. They were not UFC champions, but they were champions in other organizations, Horry and Jake Schultz also. Yeah. But the
Anderson.
The Anderson fight was hard because for the first time I lost the hope in one point. I lost Roper Hope.
Hope,
Hope, with H, right?
Yeah.
I lost hope. How was your weight cutting, Quinto?
My weight cutting, it was okay until I got older. The older I got,
was harder.
It was the harder.
Because you fight under 93 kilos, right?
Yeah. And I
205.
And I got less discipline as I got older, which is my own fault. But when I was younger, the weight cut was
easy. Okay. Yeah. Because he changed also the size of the guys. We were always big for 205, but remember there was I was fighting 185 now. It's not my weight division. For you. Yeah, man. Anderson, Chayo. You see the size of Chayo, the size of Jacaré, I met Jacaré this weekend.
Yeah.
Man, Jacaré is like this huge now,
Yeah. When you dropped down, what is it, 70, it was a hard weight cut for you?
Kind of hard, kind of.
That's the hardest part about fighting for me.
That's the only thing I don't miss.
Yeah.
Right?
The weight cuts.
Yeah.
It's because it's hard too, because after your fights, don't you just want to eat and chill and relax? I see everybody here, they always talk about the same thing.
Yeah, the weight cut is the first fight. It's you fighting with yourself.
Yes, that's the first fight. Yeah. One day I was talking to Cigano Jr., dos Santos.
Yeah.
He saw me doing and he said, man, I just can't do that, fighting because I'm a heavyweight. I don't need to cut weight. Because if I need to cut weight, I don't think I would be a fighter, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because there's so many different dynamics before you even get to the fight. But between the weight cut and what you got to do and all the different forms of martial arts and the disciplines, I mean, Fighting is one of the most complex sports, but people look at it like you just brawlers, like people that don't know the sport. And it is the smartest IQ people.
MMA is the hardest sport.
Sure.
It's the hardest sport.
Oh, I think by far. With the amount of discipline you have to have for your body, your recovery,
the
training.
Because it's not just, I said, when you go playing tennis is very hard. But when you're losing, you just live there. The same that you're getting. But MMA, in the end of the day, of course, it's very rare, but you can die actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and your brain thinks in consciousness.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
You prepare to live or die.
Yeah.
You know, even that you know that probably not gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah. We have a few minutes left, and first of all, I want to say thank you so much. I know I bugged you all night. You're a legend, the most requested podcast guest. And I know that the people really want to see this. And that's why we do this. You know, we have JAXXON, the jewelry brand. We're trying to give men the best jewelry they can wear and give them style and confidence. And we take inspiration. Yeah, you got one of the Cuban 5mm on in silver. One thing everybody wants to know is, how did you get linked up with coaching Ian Garry? And what is he really like? Forget the media and the drama.
Yes.
You're a legend. You don't get involved with that. But what is he as a person?
He's a great guy. You know, he's a star in making for sure. He contacted me. Actually, I think his wife contacted me to see if I could train him like last year. And I said, okay, when he comes to Brazil, you know, we can do, because he goes to Shoot Box, guys. Shoot Box São Paulo, which is Charles Oliveira and the guy. And then I said, I'm going to Barcelona for some seminars in October if you want to go by. And then he flew there. And he did 2 days with me, and he liked it. So he said, when I go to Brazil, I'm going to train with you a couple times a week. I said, yeah, let's go. So he's nice. He's humble in like his personal life. He wants to learn. He's very open to learn. Very smart fighter. I think he has the tools to be a champion. For sure, he's going to, you know, go for the title in one point. But fighting is a hard sport. You never know what's going to happen. But it's just, for me, it's just enjoying doing what I love, you know, which is trying to pass something. I really study this grappling part of MMA, like the cage part, stand up on the ground, the takedowns, the counters, the mix the punches with because that's different, you know. It's not sport jiu-jitsu. Sport jiu-jitsu is you play middle distance on the ground or stand up. Like wrestling is middle distance. Mm-hmm. When you go to MMA, it's a different distance. So people don't understand. They think if you're champion jiu-jitsu, you go there.
But you have a fist fighter. This fist is going to fly at your face. No guards protecting that. Yeah.
But you got to adapt the distance.
Yeah.
Because you cannot be in that middle range, you know, like playing guard. It's different. Many of the techniques he uses are going to be used there because they need this middle range. So I try to, you know, give this, you know, defensive stuff, especially for a striker. A lot of defensive things too, if they get in, especially in Ian's weight division. A lot of good wrestlers, you know. Yeah. So, you know, defensive stuff on the ground when you know, get the right reactions. When you know, let's say you go down, people put you out. What's the good reaction? Don't give the back right away. This kind of thing. And if you end up with somebody on your back, how to defend. You know,
it's no doubt you're a master of this game, taking jiu-jitsu and this no-gi concept, but then applying it in MMA. That's a completely different ball game than ADCC, and you did it at the highest level.
Yeah, it's basically understand, you know, I was talking to Kelly Slater these days. You know?
Kelly Slater, the surfer?
Because I like to surf, and I was talking to him about, you know, that when I was a kid, I was doing in Brazil some bodyboarding, and now I'm coming back. You know, I did my way, but shortboard, like surfing.
Yeah.
And then he was explaining about the connection with the waves, and he said, so nice, you know, because he has the same passion to surf, even nowadays that I have to, you know, jiu-jitsu and MMA.
Yeah.
So it's more like, you know, understand like the big picture, not just the small techniques, but these things of when, let's say, to be simple, when to strike and when to, you know, hold or advance positions. That's the goal. Because if you just punch, if you're good, you still need to control. If you're good ground and pounder, but you need to control. If you just punch, people will escape. So you need to control, punch. For me, I control, punch, and advance because I want to advance to mount and then back. And So understand when to punch, when to control, when to advance, when to hold. That's the hardest part. Looks easy when you say, but if you see a guy with a good ground and pound, it's not easy to do that. Because if you just think about punch, that happens with a lot of jiu-jitsu guys. They go the world champion, they take somebody down, they mount, and they think it's just, oh, now I can punch. They punch like crazy, they lose positions, they lose positions, they lose. So understand, to mix the striking with the control is one thing that it takes a while.
I don't think anybody can articulate it and then also show examples in real life better than you can with your history you have. The lineup of fighters you fought is some of the craziest fights in the history of MMA. There's 1 minute left. I know we got to get you back to the airport, so we're gonna wrap up now.
You're gonna take them all the way down to the last minute.
We got to fly back to Brazil right now.
I know.
I need to know, who do you think the greatest pound for pound top 3 jiu-jitsu in a gi of all time athletes are?
In the gi, Roger, Bochecha, and it's hard to say. I don't know. I think Roger and Bochecha is far from the other. In gi.
Yeah, and then in terms of like a overall master sensei, a coach who really brought athletes to the next level, who are the top you think of all time?
Okay, now Leo was one of the first. Fabio Gurgel also was my coach.
Wow.
Nowadays we have André Galvão, we have John Danaher.
Yeah, John Danaher,
Leo Vieira, André Galvão. I think those are.
Yeah, Gaval has the Rotolo brothers and Atos. He did a phenomenal job.
The Mendes bros also.
Oh yeah, the Mendes. Yeah,
they
Kenyan just won ADCC.
Yeah, in jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
that's incredible.
I think that for sure I'm forgetting somebody.
Yeah, but that's a great list. Yeah, but that's a great list. And the last thing is
no-gi.
Yeah, and the last thing is in no-gi. Who do you think the greatest are of all time?
I think Gordon is going that direction, but for me, the greatest pound for pound, I always say that, and of course, that's my opinion, because of his weight and what he did. He was much lighter. Is Marcelo Garcia.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an incredible name. I have not heard a lot of people say that. That's an amazing, I know his level of what he is, but I've not seen, everybody just says Gordon Ryan and they stop the conversation.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but
good take.
Gordon is amazing and he's in his way to be the greatest, but Gordon is like 112 kilos. He's also very heavy. 225.
Yeah,
like Roger and Bochecha and Marcelo was like fighting under 170, pounds. So, and I trained with him. I know he was something different,
And then the last thing, you could just say yes or no. Is it true that you had to go to UFC Brazil and re-commentate 1,000 fights?
Yes.
So they made
No, I didn't do one. I did with, there was me, Big Nog, and Roman, a singer from Tijuana, famous band in Brazil. He's also black belt. Under Giva, Givanildo Santana. Under Fabio and Giva. Yeah. So, 1, 2, between 3. So I did probably 330, something like it.
And just sit in the studio and re-commentate the whole thing. Wow.
I did 2 Pan American finals with Giva.
Yeah.
I lost one, and then the next year I won.
Is he living in America still?
I think so. I think he's in California. I
haven't seen him in a while. Yeah. What's your Instagram?
At Demian Maia.
Oh, okay.
I put here.
Make sure you guys follow Demian Maia if you're not already doing that.
Demian with Demian.
And make sure you guys check out. He has seminars all around the world. Also, once again, big shout out to Leo Vera, Checkmat, and Bochecha for making this happen. I was bothering this guy till 2 a.m. Big shout out to Vinny, who stayed up all night with me, helping redo the flights. Yeah. For Demian, we stayed up till 3 a.m. to get this done. And this was like one of my favorite podcasts to actually organize because of how big of a legend you are. You're going back to Brazil. We didn't go to sleep that night till we bugged you till 4 a.m. saying, yo, you got to fly in early. He flew in early. Yeah. For us, this is my favorite thing to do. Just bring in all the legends and let you guys talk and let the fans see this. I think it's the coolest thing.
That was amazing, to talk to you, Bear, and Quinton, it's someone that I was looking and I was like admiring, and watching fighting since the Pride times and the UFC times, and to be here, it's amazing.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys. Thank you for the invitation. We do again.
Yeah,
we do again.
and I got to give one big shout out again to Leo and Bushesha for helping me put this together because I've been trying to get a hold of him for a year.
Yeah.
And Leo has a big collection dropping with Santo Studio, a clothing company with his checkmate gear. And he's really trying to advance jiu-jitsu. So he's really trying to connect all the best jiu-jitsu wrestlers and grapplers of all time to come on the podcast. So it's awesome to see everybody working together.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for watching JAXXON Podcast. Leave a comment, subscribe, share it. Let us know who you guys want to see next. The GOAT, Demian Maia, Rampage JAXXON. Back at it again.